All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. As always, your Brandon, Joe, my host, Nick, and Dan. And gentlemen, we're here for the Everton match review. It's going to be a bit of a roller coaster, just like the game, and to bring nothing but neutrality, brevity, and just a serious magnifying glass to the game. Garry Hayes, it has been a minute.
He's back.
Yeah, a couple of minutes. How you doing? You all right?
Have you recovered since I accosted you outside the Fulham Broadway tube station?
My bank balance hasn't because I missed my last train home and had to get an Uber, which cost me $200.
Oh my God. Ouch.
Can we call it even introducing you to an NFL player?
Yeah, who I should have interviewed that day.
You might as well.
That I was just like, hey, bro, where were you earlier? I was like, what's going on? Is he listening to this, do you think?
Oh, probably.
Right.
I love you, really. No, I do. It was cool. It was nice having a chat. And then we were chatting about MetLife and all the Springsteen gigs coming up in the summer. And he was like, I want to go to them. I was like, you play for the Jets, you should have a box for free.
I love how this, like, Dan, we're talking to CJ, obviously Uzoma, about Chelsea, and Gary's like, have you heard of Bruce Springsteen? Like, he's got his agenda. And
Garry has a brand. Garry has a brand. It's Chelsea, it's podcasting, and it's the boss. That is it.
You have a jean jacket tattoo over your heart, baby. Let's go.
Double denim all the way.
That would be amazing.
My Canadian tuxedo has never looked so good.
You would look good in that, actually.
Oh, I'll pull it off every day.
Back on track, we will be talking about Chelsea's mid-table performance and how it drew criticism, rightly. Potter's strange subs, and then we'll look at a new Chelsea podcast called The Blueprint. That's right. Some of you OGs might remember we launched an episode called The Blueprint at one time. Now you'll know why we are no longer calling it that, as we look at Gary's longtime project in the making. But Dan, give us the temp check from the people. How are they feeling after this one? 3-word match review time.
Well, not good. It was not good. There was a lot of bad vibes.
Did you cherry pick only the bad ones? Because I'm sure there were plenty positives.
No. This was like, I didn't go to the nuclear end of it, but I did go like wade into the toxic forest. And this is what I came out with.
Yeah.
Craig had K to dissent or dissent. Again, different versions of a word that sounds the same. You had the American Outlaws White Castle guy with ending was Poupe, a little bit of a Ted Lasso reference there.
Yep.
JR20 with Tarkowski still on ? A lot of us were asking that question. Shane with the Kai delivers GIF. Absolutely. Gabriel with the fire to ash. Millhouse with the Charity FC strikes again. AJ Heston. And again, you're going to enjoy this, Nick, because the people did a little bit of reversal of fortune on the Why Not Us. AJ with the That's Why Not.
Yep.
Ayla with the Why Not Goals. And then Chris with the Finish Your Meals. Felt like a father giving feedback to this Chelsea team.
Oh, well, speaking of fatherly advice, I've said not mad, disappointed.
Really? Not mad at all, huh?
That is Dad Busby to a T.
Look, you get one game, but I tell you what, if Villa continue to fly past us, we're going to have a sit down. So for right now, you know what? Here's your chance. Turn it around. Let it be a blip. Nick, what about you?
I originally had the K3 descent, including Kepa and the Ks there. But then I elected to go with panicking under pressure.
For whatever reason, I read pancaking under pressure when I first saw it. So,
I mean, maybe.
It flatten the atmosphere. So,
boom.
Dan, what about you?
Jekyll and Hyde, because this team can look so brilliant for patches and then stubs their toe or knocks their funny bone, and it absolutely is a cell phone. And so it is probably one of the most Jekyll and Hyde Chelsea teams that we have seen in quite some time.
All right. And then Garry, we know we can expect something spicy and a zinger, right?
Well, to add to Dan's point, mine is keep the faith for the very reasons that Dan just said, because I don't know what we expect from this team. There's a million new players. There's a new coach, and it should be Jekyll and Hyde. So I think keep the faith. I think that I don't know what it was like watching it on TV, but there's stuff that I'm seeing now that I wasn't seeing at the start of the season that I like seeing, and we just need to be patient for it to come off.
Yeah, I'll definitely touch on that in point one, because to me, this is very different than the losses early in January. where we had nothing to look at. This time, again, as Chris said, finish your meals. They were there. All right. Well, no Patreon, no podcast, no Spotify. So just remember, again, if you want a Chelsea group to hang out with, our Discord is amazing. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, 5-star reviews helps us climb the ranks above the Arsenal podcast, above the ESPN FC trash. Put us above them in the charts so we can flex on them. So jump into it. It was Everton this past Saturday, the 18th of March in the Premier League at Stamford Bridge. In case you missed it, Chelsea 2, Everton 2 goals. Felix finally getting off the post and in for the first time. Doucoure then responds in the 69th. Kai gets his penalty in the 76th. Only took one time this time, which was nice. And then Sims, 89th minute dagger, absolutely deflated. And I'm sure that's when the fans started to leave, Gary, at that point.
They were leaving before because they thought it was one.
Oh.
Yeah, everyone was leaving.
Worse on the tube station getting that push notification.
Yeah, and
because it was a late kickoff, right?
Yeah, 5:30 for us. So, and the thing is, there was a train strike as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to drive and park at Wimbledon and then get the tube over. But people were leaving. They thought it was one, and I cursed it. Well, I semi-cursed it because I said to Kerry, who I go with my season ticket, we sat down. I said, "God, who would have thought it? Potter was, a few weeks ago, he was up against it, and now we're potentially on 4 wins and on the bounce." But I did say potentially, right? Potentially, and then it didn't happen. But to go to that earlier point, I think that it's par for the course. Really, it doesn't make it any easier to stomach, but I just think that the fan base should calm down a little bit and see it for what it is. This isn't Chelsea from 20 years ago, nor should it be. This isn't Chelsea from 10 years ago, nor should it be. It's a new era. It's going to take time to develop it. And these errors that are happening, both ends of the pitch, right? We should be burying a team like Everton, but we shouldn't be conceding the goals like we are at the back. And I do struggle to see how the manager is at fault for Koulibaly just being Koulibaly. And I think if Thiago Silva's playing, that goal doesn't go in because Sim doesn't get anywhere near the goal.
Yeah. I was just thinking about this, Nick. I'm kind of surprised your 3-word match review wasn't Bully's quote on his way to the car down the street.
Which wasn't
just like shit game, huh? Or something like that.
Is that what he said?
It was a shit match.
Shit result.
Oh, yeah.
Was the direct quote.
So who did he say that to? Just a fan on the street?
Fans. Yeah.
It was just walking down Fulham Broadway.
Yeah, with a couple of security guards, not on his own.
Well, and they asked him, "What do you think?" And he went, "Shit result."
Yeah,
he's been pretty candid recently on those like short little video clips. So,
but is he like that in the States? Does he do that with the Dodgers or?
It's weird, I think, to hear from a Chelsea owner because we didn't hear a word from Abramovich in 20 years, right? And like,
well, you say that.
Well, yeah. But it's just like,
Well, look, you got Jerry Jones, Mark Cuban, right?
Yeah.
You've got all these loud, outspoken like owners over here in America, so you're probably not that surprised. If anything, I think you should be excited that they're passionate and they don't want that versus like the Cronkies and Glazers who are like, yes, we played a game. So how much more went to our bank account? Like he's invested.
Yeah. And it's the same as FSG at Liverpool. They only really put their head above the parapet when they're selling something or apologizing for something, right?
Yeah, like their crypto scam. Anyways, let's go ahead and kick it over to the Chelsea Fifth Standout. We appreciate them for letting us use it for the highlights. So if you haven't downloaded the app, all the interviews and breaking news hits there first. So we'll be right back. All right, Dan, lineup time. Back three, which is what we wanted, but it wasn't a copy paste like we'd expected.
That is for sure. It was Kepa Arrizabalaga between the sticks. It was Badiashile coming back into the back three, along with Koulibaly and Wes Fofana, Big Wes, with the Ben Chilwell and Reece James wingback combo, Mateo Kovacic and Enzo Fernandez. We had Enzo in the middle, and it was Joao Felix, Kai Havertz, and Christian Pulisic up top. And look, we went almost the full length of substitutes because we brought in Conor Gallagher for Christian Pulisic. We brought in Chukwuemeka for Felix. We brought in Ruben Loftus-Cheek for Kovacic. And we brought in Trev Chalobah for Wes Fofana. Cucurella and N'Golo Kante and Madueke, along with Bettinelli, did not make an appearance off the bench.
Yeah, no surprise there. Nick, real quick, just pause on the lineup. Obviously, Christian getting 60 minutes. It seemed pretty much planned that he would get 60 minutes when he comes off in the 61st. Other than that, Badiashile in, Felix and Havertz. I guess to me, this is almost what seems like Potter's best 11, since a lot of these players are playing consistently. Slot Thiago Silva in. Maybe that right wing is kind of up for grabs between Raheem Sterling, Christian Pulisic, maybe Mason Mount when he's healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't know on the right wing. I mean, I think that's probably the most difficult one to pick right now. Yeah, I would definitely say I prefer Badiashile, though I don't think he had his best day yesterday as kind of left center back over Cucurella. And yeah, of course, if Thiago Silva's healthy, I think he makes it in as well. But I think the real conundrum is going to be when N'Golo is finally fit. And he's obviously coming back after an international break, has a couple more weeks to continue the fitness training, and I'll be curious to see if Potter kind of makes a midfield three out of Kovacic, Fernandez, and N'Golo, or if he keeps kind of the current shape, because we've seen him drop Connor in as the third midfielder quite often over the last month. And I think I'm just more curious to see if he ends up going with two up top or keeps the three.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that. You're saying that. I'm kind of hoping we go two up top with like Felix or Mason kind of in behind pulling the strings, but we'll have to see how it shakes out. Some of the high level stats though in this one, Chelsea was 69% possession, which means Everton had 31%, which is not a lot. We had 20 shots, 7 on target to their 12 shots, 3 on target. Big chances, since this is our favorite stat right now. We had 1, only missed 1. They had 3, they missed 1. So that's tough that they buried 2 of their 3 big chances, and we did not. We had 16 shots inside the box. And again, I don't rate Pickford, so that's really frustrating that we couldn't test him more in this one. He did have 5 saves, though. One random stat at Squawka: Manchester City have scored a third of the amount of goals Chelsea have scored all season, 39, in their last 2 games. Dan, why? Why do you do these things?
Yeah, come on, Dan.
Needed to point it out. There were not a lot of good stats from this game. So that was the stat that we ran into when we were putting together the script. And this is the suffering that we all have to share in together. Because again, catharsis is something that you should achieve as a group, not just alone.
Well, at least we have an NPET shithouse moment of the match.
Yeah, I wish we would have had more, frankly. Playing a Dyche team, I wanted to see a little bit more physicality and fight, frankly. But yeah, Kai's celebration after his penalty was pretty nice. A little look back to Pickford and stupid ass antics and giving him the business. Although I'll be honest with you, his penalty, I'm pretty fucking sure he stopped and that should have been retaken. So just a note on that. But the celebration was nice, at least.
Yeah, massive gray area on that definitely favors the attacker. So, all right, well, that'll wrap up the kind of the preamble. Let's go ahead and jump into the pod. Before we do that, we're going to take our ad break, and we're back all about breaking down the performance. All right, so mid-table performance from a mid-table team. Are we not allowed to have good things? As Gary said earlier, we're on the precipice of a 4th in a row, which would have been nice. I do not want to see Sean Dyche in the Premier League, Gary. If that is what Everton have built themselves up to be based on the decisions that they have made over the last few seasons, they are miserable and need to go down so they can have a proper rebuild.
Do a Burnley.
Yeah, they don't even look the same teams. Company has completely transformed them. Obviously, Ian Matson there tearing it up.
The irony being they could do it with Sean Dyche, right? Yeah, they're not a very good team. I know I was watching the game yesterday and I just said to Kep, this is the one criticism, is that we just didn't attack enough. We held players back and we played the game they wanted us to play. And when you're watching it from the side in the West Stand, you can see those patterns. And it was just frustrating because I just thought, commit Kovacic further forward, and he wasn't getting forward enough. I don't know what his heat maps might show or his average position, but he seemed to be sitting a lot deeper, whereas Fernandez was doing more. But I just thought it's Everton. There's not a midfield battle, right? You're going to be battling in their final third. That's where the game was being played. That's where they were happy to play it. And we lacked a little bit of creative flair. I thought Pulisic had a good game. It was one of the better games he's had for a while. I know he's been injured, but he seems to have a bit of a threat. And although the goal was disallowed, because was it offside? Because I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
but
Felix was offside. Well,
lovely
offside.
finish. Lovely finish.
Beautiful.
It's the thing with him and the other players in this team is that when they play on instinct, they're great. When they get in front of the keeper and they have to have a touch and then they have to think about it, then they fluff their lines, right? And that's why City are doing what they're doing when you talk about their stats, because they've got a striker who's just an animal. And we haven't got that. And we need to find it. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck in purgatory for a long time. But because I think that this team, there's a lot going for it, but then there are vital bits missing, namely the striker. It's not fair to put it on Havertz to be scoring the goals. It's not fair to be asking Felix and Pulisic to rotate and play through the middle, because it's not their game. So while we can get upset and annoyed and, throw our toys out the pram over these performances, I think that we're getting upset and annoyed. And it's almost like asking, if in any role of life, right, if you're doing something that you're not meant to do and you're getting judged for it and you're losing your job because of it, it's unfair. It's not realistic. And I just think that's what you're seeing with this team. But just as you were going through, I don't want to interrupt when you were going through the lineup just now. Yesterday as well, this is the point I'm making about this with the manager as well, because he's new at this level. But you look and you've got 7 outfield players that started yesterday with 24 or under. That's an incredibly young team. Then you look at the bench and you had Chukwuemeka, 19, Gallagher, 23, Chalobah, 23, Mudryk, 22, Noni, 21, Cucurella, 24. This is a young team. It's going to mature together. And when it does, you're going to get the teething problems that you got yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I think my broader problem with the performance yesterday is that I think for the majority of the game, Chelsea moved the ball around okay. Obviously having nearly 70% possession, that would be an indicator that we had most of the ball. But they just didn't seem up for the fight at times. And I think when Dyche was hired at Everton, you could have circled this on your calendar 2 months ago and gone, we need to have our boxing gloves ready for this one. Like, this is a knockdown, drag out. They don't have any talent. Their striker that scored, Sims, who scored the game tying goal, was a second tier Scottish striker, better part of a year and a half ago. Then he played at Sunderland. Now he played at Everton. He scored against us and did Koulibaly and Kepa in one move. I mean, this is not a team with a lot of talent. This is not a team like that should be scoring 2 goals in the Premier League, frankly. And I think, Dan, the issue I have with the way that the team played and the way the team was set up is that they did not take the opportunities available to them to just go out and fucking win the thing. They just played not to lose, and that's what happened.
So the 2 things off of what you said. One, the current Chelsea team, to the youth conversation that Garry had, is not good enough to overcome multiple individual mistakes in a match.
No.
Number 1. Number 2, they go through passages of the game where we sit back and are not as aggressive as we could be to go 1 up, push harder to get the second, go 2 up, push harder to get the third, and regress back into a game that allowed Everton opportunities to work their way back into the game. Brandon, when I was pulling the stats for the attack, which is everything looked good, moving out of the back, into midfield, right up to outside the box. And then once it was the inside the box activity, that was the challenge. And of our 3 attackers, or 3 primary attackers, so Pulisic, Havertz, and Felix, 20 shots total were taken by the team, 10 from that attacking trio. 6 were on target, 3 were blocked, 1 went off target. Their total XG was 1.47, 1.19 for Havertz, 0.28 for Felix, and 0.00 for Pulisic. Like, that from an attacking trio is not setting you up to have a 2, 3, 4 goal game and really go at this team.
Okay, so I'm assuming Havertz, that's not NPXG, right? Non-penalty. So that's going to boost his numbers with the pen, which would obviously take them all down to about 0.3. Look, I kind of come back to the strikers can only do what they're given. Felix could have done better. The production to me is what you want to see from like the defenders and the midfielders. And this is why I was saying earlier, it's better than what it was when we were on that dismal running streak when everything was lateral. We're finally hitting vertical passes. We're finally attacking players. To Gary's point, like, can we get the midfield to do more?
Sorry, I'll just to cut in. I just saw what Dan just put up for the heat maps. Why is Kovacic so deep?
One of them has to be. Like, I mean, Enzo's basically playing as an attacking third member. But
this is the thing: is that I guess, look, and this is what we're talking about with players getting used to each other as well with the age, but also the fact there's a million new players, right? They've got to build a relationship. But in that game, I don't know what you can see on TV. Everton had 11 men behind the ball at all times. Chelsea have got a back three. They can play that game 10 yards further forward. Kovacic doesn't need to sit so deep. Now, I'm not saying it's him or the manager. We don't know. But why is he generally so deep there when you look at that heat map where he's doing all his work in that?
I'll tell you why. Because when they pressed, he was the only outlet that we had to get out of that press. And that was a huge part of the issue that we had yesterday. When they started pressing in the second half, he was the only one available to receive the ball and pass it forward. And that's why the whole game got disconnected in the second half. We were terrible under pressure in the second half.
What does this heat map show, Dan? I know we're talking on the fly here. Is this his entire game or is that the second half?
No, that's the entire game.
So it's just his heat map should reflect more what Enzo's is. And I know we're getting bogged down in data here, right? Talking XG and stuff, but it's interesting because you can see someone's influence on a game. And when you see someone sitting and we were talking about it live, during the game with the people around us. And it was just frustrating to see because there needs to be a bit more. And you guys are saying about, they're not doing enough and they're not aggressive enough. They're not killers, right? And they're a little bit worried about getting turned against Everton, against Alex Iwobi. They're worried about getting turned. And I'm like, seriously, play 5-10 yards further forward and do more with the ball and be more aggressive and put them under pressure and really turn the screw, because that's what this team doesn't do enough. And whether that comes from the manager, I don't think it does. I think it comes from some of the players, because this was an issue that Tuchel had. It was an issue that Lampard had, that these players just aren't killers. There's not enough Haalands and Fodens in this team that are 4-0 up and want 5 and want 6 and want 7.
Yeah. And for me, what I think just from a positive side is like, I thought we did well with the press. You look at Everton, everything was negative for them. We were able to, essentially play one-touch football, play out of it, break them down. But, remember, they defended with at least 10, if not 11 the whole match. I would say that I thought that our attacking players, for having to play such a miserable opponent, created far more today than what we'd seen in the other runs when we played other relegation teams. Essentially the fluidity between Felix doing flicks, Kai stepping to the ball, receiving it, playing off it. Again, I would just say this is a markedly better performance of creating chances. Did they take them? Obviously not. But we had to we had to break down 10 majority of the game. And if anything, we had to pull them out, let them try to press before you could break them down again. And I thought there were definitely good moments in it. Now, defensively, we let ourselves down massively. You should go, and 2 goals should be enough to beat Everton. That's where I think we really flubbed it today.
But I mean, it doesn't, like, all this is fine if you're talking about the fact that we controlled the entire game, but we didn't control the entire game.
We had 70% possession.
Right. But the second half was a disaster. Like, basically from the 70th minute on, they came out of their shell significantly and pressed and caused Chelsea to lose all confidence on the ball, all sense of shape. And it was basically like watching fish swim in a school. Like they could not get out of their own way. And so, that number was probably closer to 90-10 through most of the, through 70 minutes in possession wise. But Everton came out and did exactly what puts Chelsea into a bad spot, Gary, which is come out, press the ball, press every player, run at us ragged, and then mistakes happen. We've seen it happen.
Yeah, it's the way Dyche teams play. They don't play for 90 minutes, right? They play to stay in it, and then they go for certain, stages in games where it's like Tony Pulis did it with Stoke. We'll play for our set pieces, and then they get their reward with a terrible, terrible goal to concede.
And that's going to happen. I know that's going to happen, and they still weren't ready for it.
Yeah,
and they had a week to prepare for it. That is why I'm frustrated.
They definitely didn't know how they wanted to approach it again. I think half the team was sitting back, half the team was going for another goal. And that's where kind of the confusion of the team wasn't aligned, with that. I think that's probably where we got caught out. And then the subs came in, and then everything really kind of changed. So we'll hold on that real quick. Gary, how have you viewed Enzo Fernandez's integration into the Premier League and Chelsea as a late January signing?
He's getting better every game, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And the previous incumbent of the number 5 shirt, he just shows him up. That's how you play football. I think he'll be great. He needs a partner, whether that partner is Kante, whether it's Kovacic, whether it's Declan Rice, whether it's Mason Mount, who I've been an advocate of dropping deeper. Whoever it's going to be, he needs a partner that he's going to play with every week, and to do a throwback to Lampard and Essien, Lampard and Makelele. That's what you build your foundations on, right? The solid defense, the spine of the team, the solid defenders, the central midfield. He is one part of a problem that has been fixed. There's another part, whether that is current players or whether they're going to bring someone in. But I've been more impressed than I thought I was going to be with him. The way he moves the ball, the energy he plays with, the way he presses. He's a leader as well. And I think as he grows, he's going to be more vocal in this team once he gets a grip on the language as well. I've just been really impressed with him.
Yeah, I would say more grit than I thought too. I mean, he got into it a couple of times.
Oh no, he's Argentinian. That's what I love about him. They love a scrap. They love us, and that's what I really respect about him, is that they've got the technical ability, but then they've got that British. Do you want a bit? Okay, let's get in your face, right? But what I just like about him is he moves the ball quick. He gets it, turns, and goes. There's none of this. Okay, I just want to touch it for 3 touches and then
lollygag
around, and then and then pass it to the left, and then slow everything down because I need to touch the ball so much, which is fine if you like that style of football. It's a different style of football, right? It doesn't mean that it's a better style of football or a worse style of football. For the football that I like to see, high octane, in your face, let's turn them quick and get at them. Fernandez is the ideal player for that.
Yeah, I wish we would have seen more of that grit and fire from other players yesterday, Dan. But I thought that Fernandez was absolutely fantastic, and it's not going to be hard to project his future at Chelsea the way he's playing.
No, I mean, I think what's nice is you are seeing individual players that have been purchased reach a level that makes you feel very good about the talent ID. So I think Enzo is one of them. Yes, it was a premium, but he has not had the acclimatization period that a lot of other players have had coming in from other leagues into the Premier League, into Chelsea, into the Champions League as well, even though he was playing for Benfica before. I think Fofana was another one, who's continued to show that he's got the right attitude to be at Chelsea. And then, I think on the day, Ben Chilwell continuing to show that he is one of the best left wing backs in the country in the way that he kind of contributes. So again, I think there were great individual performances. It's just stacking them all together for 90 minutes continues to mystify and elude this side, Brandon. And I think that gets into the way that Potter tries to make changes to the game with the subs, and where that does and doesn't always work effectively.
Okay, well, we can talk about the subs. You're really forcing the issue. I appreciate that. We must move on. He made 4 subs, didn't help secure the victory. Nick talked about the change in kind of how Chelsea dealt with. I honestly almost said Burnley, Everton. Felt like it.
The city dealt with Burnley. We had to deal with Everton.
Yeah, Gallagher came on for Pulisic, 62nd minute. Think that was fine. A lot of energy. He kind of played out in the spaces like for like. Ruben came on for Kovacic in the 81st. Chukwuemeka for Felix in the 86th. And then Chalobah on per usual, right at the end for Fofana in the 87th minute. Wes is great in possession. I can understand maybe Chukwuemeka for Felix and Gallagher for Pulisic, because that doesn't really disrupt the kind of the back half of the team. But Ruben coming on and Chalobah coming on did seem to disrupt the flow of this game. And they're having to come in so late while Everton are on top. It didn't really settle the team much, Dan. And I think that's kind of the concern of, when you bring Chalobah on for Fofana, does it change the way we play? Is he as press resistant? Was Wes tired? Why change the back if you don't need to?
So I think what I would see there is that, at least with the Loftus-Cheek and the Chalobah one, you're continuing to make sure that we've got height, because the fear is set pieces. The fear is that there's going to be another set piece. There's going to be big bodies in the box, and then Everton are going to find/make a way to get the second goal that way. And so I get some of the theory behind it, but we had them on the back foot when we had fast attackers on the pitch in Pulisic and Felix. Felix, he did kind of start to wane in terms of influence as the game went on. So it makes sense that he was going to get replaced. I just feel like it was kind of a question mark for me, Gary. I feel like putting Mudryk on would have been a good example of like, hey, let's just keep on going at him. Like, Tarkowski clearly cannot handle playing our attackers. He should have been sent off for 2 yellows for pulling Felix down initially, and then the move on Reece James, but that didn't happen. But like, that was when they were scared, and that's when we felt like we were in control, and we decided not to continue to press the issue, and we allowed them to walk back into it. And that's where my question was. You only had 2 attackers. We know that Aubameyang was out, Mount was out, Sterling was out. So like, the attacking options were limited, but you still had 2 on the bench you could have gone to instead of maybe some of the other attackers or midfielders.
But give them something to worry about, right? You're at home.
Yeah.
Give them something to worry about. The way it's cliche, right? But the way you defend your goal is just don't let the ball be near it. Play football in their half. And if Mudryk is on, or whether Noni's on, or anyone, give them something to worry about, that they're going to get turned. So they can't commit, because they're not going to want to lose 3 or 4-1, or they know they can't just go hell for leather. It's not a cup game, right? Because they've got goal differentials to worry about as well, right? So they might just have to accept, okay, look, we've just lost 2-1 today. But don't allow them to commit without worrying about what's behind them. And when you bring on the players that came on, I get that. I looked at it and just thought, yeah, that's fair enough. He's closing the game out. But then when it goes wrong, then you obviously look at it and you rightly question it. But I thought as well, Kerry and I went to Leicester away. And again, I don't know what it was like on TV, because there was no highlights here after the Garry Lineker fiasco. But and I haven't had time to watch it. But Mudryk was great that day. Did so much off the ball, really caused problems at the back for Leicester. And he came into it in the second half. And I just thought, yeah, why has he not even got on today?
Yeah, this is the problem that I have, right? Like, we talked a little bit about it in part 1, but I think the mentality needs to be with this team, because the margins of error, like, it's either Chelsea play a nearly perfect game and win, or we don't and we draw or lose, right? That's basically what's happened this season. You look back at all the results that we've had, it's hard to say anything else. So if you know that going in, then you have to go get a third goal. It's why we won at Leicester. I'm very sure that if the score line would have been 2-1 heading into the 85th minute, that Jamie Vardy would have scored the leveler, right? But at 3-1, you're kind of resigned to your fate, and you maybe take your foot off the gas a little bit, like Gary, you just said. So I think for me, if the game has become a rugby scrum, which essentially it was in the second half, then you got to have players who can ride the shoulder of Tarkowski or Godfrey or any of their shit defenders. And if you're going to play balls over the top, play them over the top with fucking purpose. Like, you could have easily seen Mudryk or Madueke or any of these guys just having a one-on-one with their goal with Pickford, because an over-the-top ball kind of made it through. and then you get your third goal, and then you are able to rest. But this team doesn't have the killer vibe to it, unfortunately.
There's also the thing as well is that when you've got someone like Tarkowski on a yellow, put someone on him.
Oh,
so
for
that
sure.
he gets a second.
Which he should have, but yeah.
But then this is I know we're getting critical, and I started off by saying keep the faith, and I'm being critical, but I think it's almost like that streetwise approach isn't quite there yet.
Exactly.
Does it come? I don't know if it's going to come, but you'd like to think it will, right? Because you've got a manager that wherever he's gone, this has happened when he's first got there. And he even says, doesn't he, about, I'm still getting my message across and I'm still doing certain things. And, which is fine. He hasn't had a pre-season. So does that change in pre-season? But, and that's why I talk about the age of players as well, because you can talk about talent. You don't have to be 30 to have talent. But when you're 30 and you've got talent and you've got experience, it counts for so much because you know how to get out of these problems.
Here's a question for you though, Brandon. Who are the most streetwise players at Chelsea?
Or I've lost them all.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Kovacic, Koulibaly, Silva, maybe.
Raheem.
Maybe?
Yeah, I mean, he's seen it all.
I'm not sure. Like
Reece seems to be pretty streetwise too. Yeah,
not playing.
But you look at that team yesterday. But you look at that team. That's what I'm saying. You look at that team yesterday. Really, by the end of the game, the one who should have really stepped up and really marshalled it and got them through is the one that gets his body contorted, where he's set up completely the wrong way, which allows Sim to twist him. It was so simple.
Most basic goal.
Yeah. It was a basic bitch goal, right? And he didn't even need to do anything to get past him. It's just a little bit of pace, because the way he set himself up, his body's all contorted and he's able to run past him. Yeah. Terrible. Yeah. He didn't even, and on Match of the Day here, they were like, oh, it was great positioning for him. And it wasn't. He just sat in the channel. That's what I'm saying. If Thiago Silva was playing, that doesn't happen. Not because Thiago Silva's Thiago Silva and incredible. It's just that it just doesn't happen because he reads the game and he sees what's in front of him, whereas Koulibaly gets exposed again. And I know he's played well recently, but that's because he's doing a David Luiz under Conte. Luiz had Aspi and Cahill outside of him, which meant that he could just do things on the ball and sweep up. But when he gets exposed, you see that he's not really a good defender. And that's what happened yesterday.
One question I had for resident goalkeeping expert Brandon Busby was, what were your thoughts on the Kepa goals allowed in this match?
Well, I mean, the first one is always the downside of him. If you leave him one-on-one inside the 6 of an aerial ball, like, he's toast. Yeah. Like, he should have came out and absolutely clamored their player. But I think he was on his line or inside his goal. I mean, you could clobber him, but he's clamored into him. But he has to challenge for it, but he doesn't want to. And the second goal is just bad. It's a little bit unlucky, but he got the wrong side of his hand and wrist on it, and it went underneath. I mean, he essentially misjudged it, and which is weird because he's done solid. It was a very savable shot. It wasn't that awkward of a spot where it's right in between your body and your wrist. He should have done better, and he saved harder ones than this in the last run. So it's very uncharacteristic. Matt Law put out a piece actually today about it, and I had started reading it for the pod and I haven't finished, but it just reminds us that Kepa has a ceiling. He's done great. He's been pretty reliable, but Kepa has a ceiling, and today was it. He's not a number one pushing for European trophies, and I don't think he's going to accept being a number 2 again. So that's a whole nother conversation. Chelsea.
Well, even what he accepts isn't the problem. The problem is that he's on 170 a week.
At least.
And at least his you don't have a goalkeeper sat there on 170 a week on the bench.
I mean, I guess my question back to you, Brandon, is based on a couple of the recent flaps, do you get the sense that it is time to give Mendy another run out if he's healthy?
Okay, so just really short, I did tweet this out because Dan put it into the universe, and Chelsea and Potter have to figure out what they're going to do with the goalkeepers. I think you have to give Mendy a run, but the problem is if you play Mendy for the next couple games and Kepa doesn't play leading up to Champions League, what do you do? Because if Mendy shits the bed and he's not ready, now you have 0 goalkeepers for Real Madrid. So I don't know how they're going to balance it, but at some point you need to see where Mendy really is at. And then you potentially need to test Gaga Slonina as well, if they even think he's remotely close. But again,
There's been some press recently on him. So it's like, I wonder if they're pushing that narrative a little bit just to.
We're down to 10 league games left, 9 league games left, and 2
11,
Champions League guaranteed. There's not a lot of time, and they're going to have to balance this, and he's going to have to do his psychology masters in excellence here to balance these goalkeepers. Mendy's going to be itching to get back, but Kepa doesn't want to give up any minutes. And Kepa's, I hate to say it, he's fragile mentally. If you take away one game of him, I think he's not going to respond well. I don't.
Play him to the end of the season and then let Mendy go and make Slonina number 2 and bring another number 1 in and blood Slonina because he looks like he's got a bit about him. But you can't change it now. He's got to accept it for what it is. Look, we are where we are with a keeper situation. Let's just get through the rest of the season. Mendy's done. He's cooked. He's not coming back. They're going to let him go, aren't they, in the summer, which is fair. He's terrible with his feet. God, it's so bad.
Yeah, but he's not giving up either one of those goals yesterday either. Like,
I don't know.
Oh, come on. Like, he's
maybe
not
the corner is not.
One.
Maybe the corner is not. But
it's 2-1 probably. It's not.
Give me a break. He's not. I don't think he's given up either one of those goals yesterday. Frankly,
I would
think
say
the second one.
Mendy is much better aerially. He has a presence that Kepa doesn't. Kepa's agile, shot stopper, good with his feet. We know they're literally opposite profiles as well.
Completely,
yeah. So
I guess what we're coming to the conclusion here with is that Chelsea have just got, because you can talk about, well, Mendy's better at this and Kepa's better at that. Yeah, ideally you'd have them both where there was one of them that was good at all of that. Yeah, exactly. You need Kepa and Mendy to have a baby, but they won't. And
Is that what the blue
breaking news
was?
from Garry?
but they're both dross, basically. They are both dross.
Yeah.
And we're stuck with them for the season.
So, I was going to look up. I know Mendy's contract's running down. Kepa's actually is finally running down as well. He's through 2025. So he's actually in a movable position.
But they've still got 2 years. Yeah, but he's not going to move. Because he's not going to go anywhere and get 170 a week.
I mean, he's ready to go to Napoli this summer.
Yeah, but no one's going to take him for that sort of money. And he's just going to look at it and just think, well,
I mean, he's gotten 5 years full wages. Like he might be at the point saying he just got called up to Spain. There is more for him, right? With an impending World Cup, he needs the minutes, or because he did cash in on Chelsea for 5 years.
I know, but then when you're cashing in on 5 years and you know you can cash in for 7, why are you going to cash out?
Oh, we'll have to see. We'll let the 17 people in our recruiting and transfer department office figure that out at this point. Because Garry, I do want to save a little bit of time for the blueprint. So the only thing we missed, Dan, and you get the one line on this, is yes or no. Do you think Conte coming in would have been a lift to the team? We know it would have been a lift to the fans. Do you think there would have been any kind of psychological impact of N'Golo coming in at that time?
If he was healthy enough to play. Sure.
I think it's cotton wool for him. Like the rule is cotton wool. You know, like Ruben's more than capable of doing the scrum job for that last 20, 30 minutes. I don't know. I know there's a lot of doubting around that. And like nobody on this podcast wants to see N'Golo Kante more than I do back in this team. I kind of agree with Potter. I just don't know if that is the best situation to bring him back into, and
a miserable Everton team that are bludgeoning players.
Well, right. And then like, you know, if they go in hard and he gets injured for 2 minutes of action against Everton, like you should be able to beat them without N'Golo Kante, I think is my 100%. Point. So yeah, I'm actually not that upset about that.
All right. Well, we're going to take our last ad break. When we get back, we're going to wrap this one up and then talk about Garry's new project, The Blueprint. So think of the sponsors. We'll be right back.
All right. So before we end this episode, we wanted to spend a little time talking about something more positive then the Chelsea results with good friend Garry Hayes and also wonderful friend Carrie as well, and their new production, The Blueprint, which again, Brandon hinted earlier, the reason why we had to change the name of something is because this is an idea that Garry and Carrie had for about, 2015, Garry, was that what you were saying?
Yeah, we sent you a writ, didn't we? Your series you're doing.
Cease and desist, yeah.
It was an urgent DM on Instagram. Hey, fellas.
It was actually in Gary's best joined up writing, though. So it looked pretty official.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just about spelt writ. So The Blueprint, it's been in production since 2015. And in that time, we're telling a 20-year story that has taken us 8 years to tell. And in that time, though, Kerry nearly died. I nearly ended up in a wheelchair. We had a global pandemic. And loads of other stuff's happened, hasn't it, Kerry? But here we are now, ready to finally launch the thing.
Yeah, I mean, when we first started talking about it, we thought, well, I mean, my background is making documentaries anyway. That's what I do, as well as write. But so I'm used to the long way to take a road. But I just don't think we ever thought it would take this many years. But the football world, it's so hard tracking down all the component parts that we wanted to do interviews with them, because everyone disperses. If they're not playing, they move to different countries, or somebody's moved to a different club and they can't find time to talk. So it's been compiling. I mean, we've spoken to it's about 180 odd people. 180
people on and off the record. Really, we should say what we've spoken to him about, Kerry, shouldn't we? So what The Blueprint is the definitive forensic story of Chelsea from the advent of the Premier League in 92 right through to 2012 winning the Champions League. So we just tell the story of how Chelsea went from perennial also-rans to winning the Champions League and how they changed football in the process. So we have gone heavy on the 90s with a lot of the people there, such as Glenn Hoddle and others. But then we've spoken to a lot of people who are forgotten about, but are important, people behind the scenes. And then we bring it right up to 2012, where we sat down with all the important people and heard the stories of stuff that has just never been told before. And we've been doing these interviews, and I go back to people that work at Chelsea and I say, I just spoke to person X and they've said this to me and I've never heard this, but I just want to make sure it's not because I've missed something. They're like, I've never heard this either. And we just keep getting all of this stuff about Chelsea and the club, and it's incredible, really.
And it's quite amazing, isn't it, Garry, that a lot of it isn't the sort of anodized post-match chat that you normally get with footballers and people in the football world, because they're a step removed, a lot of these people, from the situation now. They're way more open about talking about it. And you feel yourself, say, in the dressing room or walking down the corridors, going onto the pitch, and they paint the picture so well, because for so many of them, they've never said half of this stuff. So they're getting it out for the first time. So you've got that excitement, enthusiasm that only happens the very first time people say things.
But it really is, just to say, I know your audience is global, I guess, but predominantly American. And please just come and listen to this series, because you'll understand why you support this club.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about that really quick, right? Obviously the early 90s predate our obsession with Chelsea. Well, what's one thing that you learned doing this podcast that you didn't even know, being, so involved with the club from such an early age? I mean, that would be kind of a fascinating little tidbit to kind of tease the thing.
It's stuff that we saw happen, but you didn't realize was happening. So, for instance, we've spoken to Colin Hutchinson, who was the managing director right up to 2002, and he worked closely with Ken Bates and Matthew Harding and others. And it was just stuff that you saw happen in real time. And I was a teenager, but then you speak to him, you're like, oh, that's what you were doing. So what happened is, again, you just have to forgive my ignorance, because Kerry always has to correct when we're editing stuff. Kerry comes back to me and he's like, yeah, I don't understand what you're talking about, because you know everything here, but you've got to talk to the listeners if they don't, because I just miss stuff out. And I'm like, oh, yeah, everyone will know that. And he's like, no, they don't actually know that. So basically, so what happened is in the mid-90s, you had the Bosman ruling, right? When Jean-Marc Bosman opens it up free transfers and stuff. Chelsea were the first club to exploit it. That's how we got Ruud Gullit. That's how we signed Vialli. And suddenly Chelsea go from Glenn Hoddle doing everything he was doing behind the scenes to the club at the time for what it was, goes into the stratosphere by bringing in Gullit. And then when Hoddle leaves, it just starts picking up. And then you see the cogs have been oiled and it just starts spinning a bit quicker. And, you know, then Vialli takes over as the manager's job, and then it moves into Ranieri. But then we're speaking to Hutchinson. I'm like, Colin, you know, I'm doing this professionally, but I'm a Chelsea fan. So that's why it's taken me 8 years as well, because I felt the weight of this burden on me where I keep saying to Kerry, I'm like, it can't be shit. It can't be shit. This cannot be shit. And I've just had this burden hanging over me, which is why I was saying to you earlier, I had this like writer's block I was sat there scared to type because I just didn't know what I was doing. But because I was like, this can't be shit. And I've got this all in my head and I need to get it out. And I was chatting to Colin Hutchinson and I was like, why did you sack Vialli? I was like, I was 15 years old and you sacked Vialli, and it like ruined for about 6 months. I struggled to watch Chelsea because I was gutted because he was my hero, right? And then he told me why I did. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. You know, I'm like, and it was all because, you know, we're not giving anything away here because we don't want to give too much away because we want people to hear it for the first time and we want people to get excited by it and really get into this idea of that, you know, this club, yeah, okay, we had a bit of a checkered history where we went boom and bust a few times, but the modern game now and what football is because, by and large, because of Chelsea, right? And what they did with, just to go back to it with Vialli, is they said, but we knew we had this plan where we got Gullit in because he knew he could attract players. So we did that. And then his time came to an end and then Vialli took over. But then that team was aging. So we got rid of him. And that's when we signed Lamps. And I was just like, okay, I feel like I should have known this, but I didn't. And so you hear all the back office boardroom talk. And then, but it's other stuff like with Ken Bates talking about why he sacked Gullit as well. And, that's who we launched with. We launched with Ken Bates because we went to Monaco and spent a long time with him. And we launched the Ken Bates tapes this week to get the series going. Sorry, Kerry. You take it on, Kerry, because I'm going to start waffling because I've got too much stuff in my head.
Yeah, I mean, for me, being a fan as well, I loved hearing about who was friends with who, people getting together after games, discussing things, who would room with who, all those sort of incidental things that go on, but you try and work out, would Frank Leboeuf have been a good mate with, say, Ruud Gullit? Well, you'll find out in the series. You know, there's all sorts of things where there's amazing historical content, which is usually revealed from the people in the boardroom, because, of course, for them, it's about running a business and they make decisions based on it being a successful business. And they'd move people on because their cycle would be over, as Gary's just said. So we've got a lot of that. And that has been the most fascinating part, because also when you're intense, when you're recording an interview, sometimes things pass you by because you're listening out for certain key points. Yeah. And then you go back, and Garry and I are often in those moments where we call each other and go, did you realize what person X just said about... It
happened just this weekend when I was like, listen to this from Frank Leboeuf. I totally forgot we had this. And then we've got this stuff with Jody Morris, because I know we're sort of scattergunning everything here, but the story, so we're launching with the Ken Bates tapes, 2-part special, comes out this Tuesday.
The Ken Bates tapes.
Oh, the thing is, and the stuff that he says is just incredible. And it's the most detailed interview he's ever done about Chelsea, right from 92, right up to when he sold to Roman. Takes us inside the deal. They're sat doing the deal does it blow about how that happened.
I can tell you're dying to tell it, but everyone's going to have to go and listen to it.
Yeah, but then, we're listening. So the story, though, so we launched with those first two, but then, and the actual series will follow up in May with the full narrative series. So we've got the Ken Bates takes 2-part special, and then we do the full narrative series at the end of May. But the story starts, we haven't done it, chronological. The story starts in the Nou Camp against Barcelona, 2005, and which is interesting because Barcelona are getting caned now for what they do with referees, and Chelsea are getting cheated out of a game by Frank Rijkaard and Anders Frisk. We assume, right? That's where the story starts. But then what we do is it's really interesting because Chelsea played Barcelona in 2000, and the whole feeling around Chelsea was completely different. Where it was our first season in the Champions League, and we beat them 3-1 at Stamford Bridge in the first leg. But everyone's like, "Oh, look, little old Chelsea, isn't this great for them?" So we're doing this comparison to show the turning point in the club's history, because this is my theory, and it's only my theory, but it's the correct theory. Is that the turning point for Chelsea, modern Chelsea, isn't 2003, the 1st of July when Roman comes in. It's that game in February 2005, because up to that point, it was the first. I know we got to the Champions League semi-final the year before. We beaten big teams like Arsenal, Man United along the way, in terms of in the Premier League and stuff. And we beat Arsenal in that Champions League campaign. But this is the first time that Chelsea went head to head with a Barcelona or a Real Madrid or anyone. And not only did we beat them, we completely rewrote the landscape of football. We dominated the headlines, everything. And everyone was hoping that Barcelona would put us back in our box and just say, okay, you've got your new money and you're doing this, but Barcelona are this bastion of football. We are more than a club, and we're just going to put you back where you belong. And Jose went, no, that's not happening. And that's where we start the story, because when this series first started in 2015, we've come a long way, because I had this idea that I was like, I just want to do this stuff about Barcelona because I hate them. And I want to show about how Chelsea have just completely owned them. But then...
But it's also a case, wasn't it, that whole period you're talking about, and why we start with that, is it really is, even though a few years previously we played Barcelona, some could say, oh, that was us announcing our arrival, but it wasn't. It was this game, because Barcelona were running scared of us. You were having to get them to make terrible decisions, and referees make terrible decisions. That's what it felt like. True or not, who knows? But the feeling was Chelsea had arrived, and nobody liked the new kids on the block. And that is really the story of Chelsea in modern football, because it had been protected from so many outside clubs in the past. You had your big clubs. They were the big clubs. Nobody was going to butt into that. And Chelsea came in as the rude neighbours who went, excuse me, what's happening in here? We just think we should rearrange the furniture. And that's exactly what
and that's how the story evolved. What we've done is that I thought, yeah, this should be about Barcelona. And then I was like, actually, no, because Chelsea is bigger than this.
Yeah.
And then Kerry and I got together in a cafe in Old Street in London, and we were talking about it. And then we just grew it to what it's become. And now 180 interviews later, here
basically,
we are.
I got inside Garry Hayes' mind to help him.
Scary.
Yeah. Oh, it's just scary. But I've only just...
Brave man, Garry.
I'm only just getting out. But helping him, because Garry knows more about Chelsea, and I hate giving him compliments like this, but he knows more about Chelsea than just about anybody else I know. But his thoughts just are continually processing information. And it really is, as a documentary maker, hopefully my great strength in this is being able to help Garry just really streamline those thoughts to get that linear story, which we've created now. And I think we've got this. And I think that's what's going to appeal to Chelsea fans, because you've got Chelsea people looking into Chelsea while not just going nuts about everything. I mean, half the time I wanted to cry and say, thank you so much for that moment when somebody's telling you about something you remember, but trying to keep it together and just realize that we can actually tell a story for people that hopefully encapsulates what it is that is so magical about Chelsea, why I've loved them all my life, why Gary's loved them all his life, why you guys have loved Chelsea all your lives since you've been Chelsea fans. There is something, and I hope we can try and bottle a little bit of that and turn it into this podcast series.
For sure. And we're super excited. Look, our audience love learning about the club, and especially times that predate us. So this will be right up the alley for the fans looking to get a deeper connection. And look, Garry, I appreciate you and your anti-Barcelona agenda. I am so glad you guys expanded it.
Oh, I'm anti anyone who isn't Chelsea. Wait till you hear the Liverpool stuff.
Amen.
I am excited, but 92 to 2012, what a great kind of 2 decades to pick out, especially with Chelsea capping it nicely in Munich. So we'll get it out. We'll support it as always. But
Tuesday,
you guys,
right?
Good
Yeah,
stuff.
it's going to come out on Tuesday. And if you want to find it, if you put it into your podcast apps or follow us on Blueprint_pod on Twitter and Instagram. But if you just look up the Blueprint, how Chelsea FC changed football on your podcast platforms, then you'll be able to pick us up. Or, just follow Kerry or me on social media, because we're going to be banging on about this for the next 2 months. And that's it really. And hopefully, we've done it justice and fans are going to hear it and they're going to go, no one can sing a song about Chelsea and history. And because you know what? Your club is doing what it's doing because they're copying Chelsea. Your club is doing what they're doing because Chelsea did it first. And, that's what this series is about. It's done professionally without bias, but
we are mass.
There's plenty of bias in there.
we are mass Cairn club.
Yeah, very much.
We
so.
really are.
Awesome. Well, more on that. We'll obviously get the word out as best we can to our audience as well. But thank you so much, you two. That's going to wrap up this episode. Hope you've enjoyed the Everton match review with a special ending of the Blueprint. Nick?
We're going to do just a little different outro track, though, right? Because I think we may use the song that Garry referenced earlier.
Should we say what it is?
Do it.
We haven't set it up. So in '97, Chelsea recorded a song called Blue Day. It was written by a chap called Mike Canaris, who's a Chelsea fan. And we tell the story of this in the series as well, because we want to do culture as well as everything else. So Mike wrote the song and was recorded. And for my generation, my dad grew up with Blue is the Colour. For my generation, Blue Day was My Blue is the Colour. So we put the money together and somehow licensed it and got Mike to re-record it. And now we have Blue Day 23.
As sung by what we call our group is the Blueprinters.
That'll be good. A lot of familiar names in there, so it'll be interesting if people can pull it back. So anyways, that's out from us. A lot more content coming at you this week, as always. But until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.